hills of Los Angeles, I'm in those Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, February 2nd. Happy Groundhog Day, everybody. For the LA Galaxy, will the winter be a little bit longer? Will spring suddenly burst forward as they head into Coachella, more closed-door scrimmages, and then eventually on their way to their first competitive match here, now just 17 days away as we look at it. A lot to get to. There was a season ticket member event over the weekend if you were lucky enough to be there. We're going to talk about that a little bit. There are some rumors out there about Joseph Paintsel. We'll discuss those here a little bit as well. But we're going to get you through the preseason game that saw the LA Galaxy 4-1 winners over DC United and a whole bunch more. Now, filling in for Mr. Kevin Baxter, who's off in Milan for the Olympics, please welcome back to the show one of everybody's favorites from the Southern California News Group, Mr. Damian Calhoun. Damian, how's it going, bud?
I'm doing great.
Yeah? Hanging in there?
Glad to be here.
Yeah. How's the offseason bid for Damian? What have we been up to besides high school football, high school basketball, a whole bunch of stuff, right?
That's pretty much it. Season ended in October. Heart of high school football season, basketball season ends here tomorrow, right into the playoffs with soccer as well. And then, in 3 weeks, the Galaxy will be back playing. So
yeah, I know.
The table's going to get full here pretty soon.
Well, I have a fun one. My son last night, he got the flu. He didn't get to make it to the season ticket member event because I was going to take him with me if we could make that happen. But I tested myself before I went because I didn't want to get anybody sick. I was clean of that as well. But he was almost fully recovered on Sunday. So we did some things on Sunday, went around, and then he looks at me and he goes, I want to watch some sports. He's 6 years old, right? He's never once asked in a million years. He asked, can we watch some sports? Is there any football on? I'm like, no football on. Sorry, bud. The Super Bowl's next weekend, and he goes, well, what else? What's on right now? I go, well, the Lakers are playing. Yeah, let's watch the Lakers. So I think I've initiated him into the way of the Lakers. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but there's worse places to be for sure, right?
Of course. I mean, you got Luka and LeBron. It's a good place to start.
It's not bad. It's not bad. They did lose, so I don't.
Oh yeah, they did lose.
yeah. So we'll work on that a little bit better. But no, he's doing good, and so far, no flowers blooming here in terms of the flu. So we'll survive and keep moving on. I also told my wife I'd have to move out, Damian, if she got the flu because I have a podcast on Sunday, so I need to be ready for that. So. We'll see how all of that goes. Before we get too far, I want to remind everybody, coming up on Sunday, February 8th, Corner of the Galaxy will be live from Coachella as the LA Galaxy take on the Chicago Fire. We will have live interviews immediately following that game. So come on out. That game starts at 10. We will literally be at our booth at 9. We will watch the whole game, and around 11:45, we will kick off the podcast for our third consecutive year at Coachella Valley Invitational. You can get your tickets at CoachellaValleyInvitational.com. Go do that. I'll also put up on the screen where we should be located. This is the map of the grounds for 2026. The same spot. So just on that, the stands, the general admission stands that are on that field number 1 on the far side there where the star is. You're going to find a little pad there. You'll see our pop-up tent there. We'll be there with all of our equipment ready to rock and roll, and we have some interviews, a whole bunch of stuff going forward, just in case you're wanting maybe a little sneak preview, Greg Vanny scheduled to be on there as long as, he doesn't get like red carded out of the game or something, in a preseason match. Tom Braun will be there. I think Will Kuntz is going to be there. As long as he's in town, he'll be there. So we're excited to have that. And we do have who we think we have 2 players. All right. So we're going to try to have 2 players at the same time. So you're going to want to stick around for that. And obviously the Hammer is traveling out from Texas to be part of that. So the Hammer's in attendance. So it'll be me and Hammer at the podcast. Damian, you're more than welcome to come on down. I know you're like, nah, I don't need to drive all the way out there, right?
I appreciate the invitation, but I'll stay local on Sunday.
Yeah. I get it. Like, it's going to be a stretch for me to get back in time for the Super Bowl, the whole deal, but it is what it is. I heard tickets are selling fast. That it is the biggest day that they're going to have there, obviously with the LAFC game that day and then the LA Galaxy game as well. So both LA teams in action and they're at Coachella. So make sure you get on out there. CoachellaValleyInvitational.com. We can't wait to see you. I have some new stickers that I have made. So hopefully as long as those arrive in time, I'll bring those out with us. So we're looking to have a good time. So it'll probably be 130 degrees if it continues because it's supposed to be like 90 on Wednesday, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's been like 80. About 80 the last couple of days here in Compton. So it's like you add about 20 for Indio, maybe.
Yeah, I mean
20.
I have no. It was either it's going to rain or it's going to be 110 degrees. Like it's going to be one or the other. So we're excited to head out there and see what the weather brings us. So that's what you have to look forward to. The LA Galaxy deep into the preseason now. That's right, 2 whole games into the preseason. If you're playing the home game, Damian, the LA Galaxy 4-1 winners over DC United. That happened on Saturday. That was an 11 a.m. closed-door scrimmage. We got a whole bunch of goal scorers in there. We'll go over those real quick, and then we can talk about what we're seeing from this, being we didn't see any of the matches, and maybe I do have some insights for you. Goals scored by Marco Royce, Nascimento, Julian Aude, and Lucas Sanabria. I mean, just off the top there, seeing Lucas Sanabria in, seeing Julian Aude in scoring goals. I heard the first goal came, I think, in the first minute. So DC United was already losing in the preseason 1 minute. It was very, very DC United of them. So 4-1 was the final score there. The Galaxy do get scored on for the first time in the preseason. So there goes the shutout of the preseason I wanted to bank on. But now that's 2 games for the LA Galaxy, 1-0 winners over Portland, 4-1 winners over DC United. And I can tell you from 100% from a truthful spot here, Damian, neither you nor I saw any part of that game. There was nothing there that we could even try to expand upon, right? So
nothing. It's so those closed door outdoor scrimmages are so secretive. There were people. When the Portland one was going on, I was leaving US women availability. And there's like so many people standing say it's a closed door scrimmage, but there's like 30 people hanging out above the thing there. But yeah, I didn't see anything.
I was talking to some of the security guards, and they put that new sidewalk. There's that new, the sidewalk goes all the way across on that side. Yeah. I'm like, well, now you guys are going to be kicking people off that thing like crazy. Like before, at least they had to stand in the grass, and now there's going to be people up there. So, it's interesting, though, because I think you know this and I know this. You and I are not allowed to go up there and watch, and that would certainly be something that they would frown upon. But occasionally, they don't kick everybody out from watching the scrimmages up there. It's like you said, there's like 30 people standing up there watching, doing some stuff. So just trying to keep all of that going on. I was going to point this out. This is so instead of and we'll sort of meld these 2 things together is the season ticket member event and this scrimmage. I can tell you one of the reasons I went to the season ticket member event was to try to talk to people who saw some of this game. So I was able to do that. I did talk to people who saw the game. It's either people I've known for a long time, people that I trust, certainly their observations. There's something going on with the LA Galaxy, Damian, and it's interesting. Because you didn't have this last year, but certainly there was a real shock whenever Ricky goes out again. And so there's sort of this idea that, the LA Galaxy are reeling a little bit and that maybe some of the moves they were going to make aren't going to be pulled off just because, Ricky's such a huge part of that. I would just like to stop for a second and say, imagine Ricky Puig is on this team right now. How are you feeling about the LA Galaxy, right? And I think people are probably right through the roof. And going to the season ticket member event, Damian, I got to talk to a lot of people, got to talk to fans, listeners, whole bunch of people. Super awesome time. But I wanted to catch the vibes, right? Because we don't know what preseason means. Have no idea. But I wanted to know what the vibes were. And to a person, almost everybody I talked to, and some people certainly would feed me a party line, and some people have no interest in doing that whatsoever. But the vibes are immaculate is basically the idea right now. I got there and was able to talk to some people, and they're like, hey, if you see the players, they're all jazzed. And you're like, well, why are they jazzed? Well, they just beat DC United 4-1. They're just super pumped up. And it's like, yeah, but like it's a preseason game. Like, who really cares? There is something about this team that has started early in this preseason where they believe, and this is going to sound like, well, isn't it every team's job? They believe it's their job to win every game that they're out doing. Now, that's an easy thing to sort of say, shouldn't every team be that way? And the answer is sure, but they're not, right? And there's a certain mentality that goes along with that. So what I'm seeing from, at least the body language that you get from some of the players, and then what I'm getting from some of the people who have been able to watch things is that this is a competent team. They're confident in what they're able to do. And all the guys that they've brought in, and we have a roster we could go over and even look at this, but all the people they brought in have done nothing but to raise the level that the LA Galaxy are sort of in. So while I think there's still some concerns around Ricky Puig and not having a 10, I think the Galaxy believe, down to the players, that they have the pieces to be competitive in Major League Soccer. So you were around the team last year, Damian. There wasn't a lot of positive sort of, I mean, it started out bad and it got worse, right? The whole deal. But we're in preseason now, and preseason doesn't matter until it does, right? What do you take from just knowing that there seems to be this undercurrent of, not just competition, but needing to win?
Yeah. I talked to Will, I think it was last week, and he talked about, the makeup of the team. You get some young guys who are pushing some veterans. Everybody's pretty much in camp from the beginning. So that sort of leads to a confidence that everybody's there together. You're not waiting on many guys to show up late into camp. And then coming off of last year, you just want to win anything. I mean, winning anything sort of will build confidence. Because we haven't seen the starting lineups. You don't know if they scored the 4 goals against a bunch of academy kids or not. But you can still, the Galaxy's first team guys are out there playing, scoring in the first game and scoring in this game here. So that always builds confidence. You're out there, scoring goals against, I don't care who, scoring against you or scoring against me, that's going to give you confidence.
Yeah, and I think that then that's contagious, and it sort of spills over. Somebody said, I'm getting that 2024 preseason vibe, right? That's that again, somebody who's around the team enough to know, right? But it's always like, I used to have this discussion with Dave Sarakin all the time, which was, it was warm-ups. Hey Dave, what do warm-ups mean? He goes, absolutely nothing. He goes, you'll never know, right? And he goes, and sometimes they warm up great and they play like crap, and sometimes they warm up like crap and they play like great. They play great, and he goes, and sometimes they're so awesome in warm-ups and they go out and they just absolutely dominate. You're like, I knew it the whole time, right? And that's what preseason is. Preseason is you don't know. Somebody literally came up to me and I said, hey, I'm hearing some good things. They're like, calm down. They beat DC United. Nobody even knows what DC United is, right? And I was like, correct statement in a lot of ways, right? It's almost like Sporting, the DC United is just slightly above the joke that Sporting Kansas City is right now, who can't get their coach in on his visa yet, And it's that, and that barely has enough players to field a starting roster right now. Right. So they have all these problems and all these things. So, you can sort of say, okay, it's DC United. Okay, it was Portland. Eventually this stuff matters. I don't know that we know that. I think Chicago is going to be a much better test, quite honestly, for the LA Galaxy. So that's one to watch. What other games do we have? We have another one against OCSC on February 4th, right? So that's in 2 days coming up. So they got a little, I called this the you tried to steal my field derby. So we'll see what that sort of puts in there. But the idea here is that there does seem to feel like there's momentum coming in. Do you feel like we can go to the list? I can go to the roster here real quick. I've got about 28 on the roster. There's a couple that might be up in the air on some of this, but we can look at it. But you bring in guys like Eric Tommy. You bring in guys like João Klaus. You bring in guys like Jakob Glesnes. Justin Hack. You can put these guys in. You got to talk to him, I think, in person. Damian, it only feels like they added to, the intelligence and probably the style of what the LA Galaxy want to do. These all seem like they were very targeted people brought in for specific missions. Everybody knows what their role is. There is no question mark about what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it. Do you get that feeling from talking to the new guys?
Yeah. We that first media session we had with Will, and we asked him going into the offseason was defender, and your two main targets were defender and a forward. I mean, a number 9. And then they went out and got Guesman. They went out and got Justin Hack. And then you ended up getting Jao Klaus. I mean, those 3 good pickups there. Then you added Eric Tommy the other day. And we asked Will, why did you think you needed to do that? And he said, goals allowed.
Yeah, that was my question.
Was
that was my question. Goals allowed.
Yeah.
That was it. I'm like, that's it? Just goals allowed? Is it goals allowed? I'm like, sometimes I don't mind one-word answers. That was the correct answer. It was like, okay, 2 words. That works.
And hey, Guesman is one of the best center backs around, and it sort of helped fortify the back line there. I still think you got too many center backs back there, but we'll see what happens. Will anybody move or what? But we'll see how the rest of this preseason plays out.
Yeah, it should. I should note, by the way, whenever I show you my incomplete roster that's going in here, when you don't have salary information for people for this year, you have to use last year's stuff. So Eric Tommy on 1.6 is probably last year's number and not this year's number. I was able to confirm, and I will continue to confirm, Eric Tommy's not a TAM player, so he's not taking up TAM. So that number is likely less than that, unless they're using general allocation money to pay down basically the salary to below it. Doesn't have to be TAM, but could be general allocation money. I would assume, I'm going to guess, that his salary is under $1 million. That's going to be my guess. It could be, quite honestly, it could be in the 800 to 700 range. We will see. We got our first look at Eric Tommy whenever he arrived. So he had arrived on, I believe, Friday afternoon from Munich, directly from Munich. He said that the weather change was very nice. It was cold, it was snowing, and he's like, it's like 80 degrees here, so he enjoyed that. But he came in from Munich, having played in the Sporting Kansas City program, and again, SKC struggling like crazy. He's a free agent coming in, but we got to talk to him, or he got to talk to the people. I should point out in all of this that the idea that Joe Tutino was there doing interviews with every player. Basically, they had 3 or 4 of them in a group, and he would do everything. And I got to talk to Joe a little bit afterwards, and I just told him, I go, you ran that exactly the way that it needed to be run. It was so well done, and like, I know it's not like you get a whole bunch of training for this stuff, Damian, right? Like, that they're just like, hey, Joe, can you just talk to every player, and like you have this much time with each of them, right? And he goes out there and does it. He's such a professional when he does it, and it's as somebody who talks and tries to keep people entertained for a certain amount of time with time frames that you have to fit people into and do all sorts of stuff like that. It was another masterclass by Mr. Tutino. But yeah, you can see a guy like Eric Tommy coming in and doing that. But I mean, when you look just at this, let's pretend that Eric Tommy, by the way, is up at the $1.6 million. You added the 3rd highest paid player. You added the 4th highest paid player. You added the 5th highest paid player, right? And we know that those numbers are probably pretty close. Guesman is still on a contract. Klaus is still on a contract. So those numbers are going to be pretty close to where it is. Tommy comes in on a new contract, so we don't know what that one is yet. But you can go through here and look. And Hack, by the way, don't get used to that number at 265. I imagine that number's at 800 something. 865, somewhere right in there. It's almost the max you can give them with the contract, and it's for 1 year, and that's why it's going through it. So the Hack number is not correct, but that moves Hack up there into the 7th highest paid player, somewhere around what Marco Reus is being paid. So where the LA Galaxy were able to add in people were in positions and in places where, 1, you expect them to start, and 2, you expect them to have some sort of influence on the way that the LA Galaxy play and what happens. These were really big moves that the Galaxy were able to make, And they did them with sort of the idea that, Ricky Puig was going to be there, and then all of a sudden he's not. And you go through, and it was you're still, as we heard, Klaus was apparently on the docket there before Ricky got hurt, and it just made it easier for them to sort of make happen. Do you get I was going to say, do you get a sense that these guys are going to have sort of the impact that we maybe expect them to?
Yeah, I think so. You look at a guy like Klaus, who's sort of coming here betting on himself, as Will pointed out the other day. 1-year deal. Last year was contract. Looking to parlay a big season into a bigger one here, or maybe he goes overseas somewhere. They really hit out on what they needed. I think now is just finding the pieces. I think there's a lot more depth, as I said earlier. Tighter schedule, of course, and I guess a lot of guys are going to be called upon to get through the first part of the season, and then after the World Cup.
Yeah, I was talking to some people about the two lineups thing that seems to be the way the LA Galaxy are going to approach this beginning of the season. Remember, the beginning of the season looks like this. San Miguelito down in Panama, I believe. And then it's versus the LA Galaxy in that CONCACAF Champions Cup. And then that's on February 19th. Again, it is February 2nd, so 17 days away from an actual, real, impactful, competitive match of soccer. And then you get the season opener on 2/22 against New York City, right? That's only 5 days after they play the first game, right? So that's a quick turnaround. Again, 3 days later against Sporting San Miguelito again. That one at Dignity Health Sports Park on the 25th, and then the 28th, the LA Galaxy hosts Charlotte. That's just the first 4 games.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first 2 weeks of the regular season, but it's going to be 4 games in basically the span of 2.5 weeks. And the LA Galaxy are going to have to come up with results in a majority of these games. Not only that, but just looking at the two starting games in terms of from Major League Soccer, Damian, New York City and Charlotte, those are both home games. We know the LA Galaxy, not great at home last year. So already you're asking them to be winners of 2 games against New York City and against Charlotte at home to start the season. That seems like that's going to be very impactful very quickly.
Yeah, and I think one of the guys, it might have been even Greg the other day, said they want to come out and get back to where they were in 24 at home. They didn't lose at home in 24. So last year was just last year was last year, but they want to get back on track because remember when Greg first got, they talked about turning Dignity into a fortress, something they struggled with early on in his regime there. They figured it out in 24. Now, can they get back to that this season?
So interesting to look at sort of the teeter-tottering of MLS. I was actually reading an article today, and they were talking about, this was in The Guardian, I believe it was from Jeff Reuter, wrote it, and he was talking about how Miami is basically getting to reload and do all these things that most teams can't do, right? Like the whole deal. You even go up and look at Vancouver and what Vancouver had to do, and Vancouver didn't win an MLS Cup. They weren't, but they were very successful last year. They put a lot of chips in, and now they're they're going to have to remodel that team, doing the whole thing. The only people so far who haven't had to remodel are like Miami, who are just reloading with tons of talent, and it's because they got a guy named Messi on the team who, like Dane St. Clair, could have got max figures from Minnesota, and instead took a pay cut to go play with Messi, right? So, yeah, I know. Is it
Minnesota, Miami?
I know. There's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of things to go on, but no, it really sits there. I'm looking at the Western Conference. As of right now, I feel like if you're looking at the teams who finished up near the top, Vancouver, I think, got worse. LAFC, who seems primed to have could be a top 1, top 2 in the Western Conference. Now looks like they may have an issue with Boanga and possibly moving out. That would make them worse. Don't know who they go out and get, but if they lose him, just having that connectedness that they've had from last season to this season hurts. I feel like the LA Galaxy got much better in terms of what they're going to do with defense. I feel like they have reloaded appropriately. They seem to have done it responsibly as well. So there's flexibility coming into the summertime. So I think there's something like that. Don't fall asleep on Seattle because you can't, right? They're going to be there. Just be like Seattle. Somebody said the Galaxy just have to be Seattle, which is don't lose the playoffs in the first half of the season. Don't just be there. Just be in the mix, right? And then you can do lots of things as it comes down the stretch. So I'm looking at the Western Conference. I don't feel like there's a whole bunch of improvement. I think the Eastern Conference has gone through some different shades of things. I think Charlotte's going to be a really interesting game to sort of see what they look like from one year to the next and coming in. I don't know about New York City. Haven't started studying them yet, but they're usually a pretty good team. So watching that, it's like, who's making the most moves? Who's really getting better? The answer is there's in my mind there's maybe 2 or 3 teams that have gotten better, much better. Maybe 4. Well, I'll throw Nashville in there as well. I think Nashville has done a lot. Yeah, San Jose has lost. I mean, I know they just brought in Timo, but at the same time, they lost like 44 goals with starters and goal contributions. Bruce is going to be Bruce, and I'm sure they'll end up having a good team, but that seems like a setback. Nashville, I think, has gotten better. I think the Galaxy have gotten significantly better. I would say, we'll see sort of what happens there. But Miami is the answer to this. Who's the favorite to win MLS Cup right now? It's Miami. And it's not, and then it's everybody else. There is not a lot of separation. So I think if the LA Galaxy can get these players in, can be good defensively, which I don't think is something Greg has really never had, which is like a really good defensive team with the LA Galaxy, put that together, then you're going to be looking at people talking about, the Galaxy and Miami in terms of teams. Now, are we getting ahead of ourselves? 100%. 100%. Right? We don't even know. Again, the big missing piece here, Damian, is the 10. Do you feel like, think of all the guys who can fit into that spot. And the biggest guy there is Marco Royce, right? And what you're going to do with Royce. Eric Tommy came in and talked a little bit at the season ticket member event of being able to play some 10. So you got Royce and Tommy that can sort of play there and do some stuff. You're going to have Sanabria. You're going to have Winder. You're going to have Lepley. You're going to have Isaiah Parente, who can play in that spot. You have all these guys. Is there enough? This is like a Moneyball question. Is there enough people who can play the 10 to create a 10 that the LA Galaxy can sort of work with?
Yeah, you also have Klaus, who likes to, drop down below and get the ball and take, and join the attack that way. Man, there's a lot of pieces. I think at some point you might see some guys loaned out to some of the younger guys. I just don't think they're going to get much playing time, really. But if you keep Marco healthy, I don't think you don't need to run Marco out every week 90 minutes.
Right.
He probably wants to go, but you can balance his time, take him and pair him with someone else that you can flip one game here, one game there, keep him healthy. I think you're good there. If it's him and Tommy, if it's him and Lepley, him and whoever in that central midfield spot. But yeah, there are a lot of pieces. Like I said, they're deeper than they were last year. So it's a matter of seeing it live. Like the fans get to see that on Sunday.
Well, I mean, it is reminiscent a little bit of 24, right? When you had guys like Gaston Brugman you could bring off the bench, or Diego Fagundes who you could bring off the bench, and I feel like they have some of that. I don't think Eric Tommy's going to be a full on starter. I don't think there's room for him to be a full on starter. But for me, looking at what they're trying to do and how they're doing it, listen, this is also in a perfect world where nobody gets hurt, right? I mean, yeah. I think I was talking to Joe Totino afterwards. I was able to hang out after the event was over at 5, and I just hung around until they kicked me out. And so I was there talking with Joe a little bit, and we were talking about the injuries last year and how that dictated so much. So it's like, yes, I agree with you. There's a lot of people, and I sort of said the same thing, Joe. Like, where's everybody going to get playing time? Like, there's 11 guys on the field, and you're going to have 5 subs. All right, so I can do the math. Some guys aren't playing.
Yeah.
And Joe correctly told me to hold my horses and was sort of like, people get injured. Remember that part, right? That's an important part to it, is that people do get injured. And the Galaxy right now seem to be in a position where they have people to back up those injuries. So if that's the case, and if the Galaxy start with 2 separate lineups that are sort of back and forth in terms of the start of the season, maybe the Galaxy have the horses here to start fast and be able to hold something. If they can get through the preseason without getting injured, and again, with all these closed door scrimmages, we don't know who's training, who's not training. There could be injuries. There usually are in the preseason.
Yeah.
We won't know that until we go to Coachella on February 8th, when then all of a sudden we're like, well, these guys aren't playing and this guy isn't playing, and then all of a sudden we can start asking questions, to where everything is. So it's just an interesting thing. I'll say this. Let's also look at this is as of today. I have to say that because as I constantly remind people, I have this chart, and at the bottom there, it actually gives me an average age and then a mean age, right? The average age is 26 on this roster right now, which is a really nice number. That's a good place to be. By the time we're done, the average age, depending on who they bring out, who they loan, the whole deal, that average age could be 27, 28, right? And it climbs and it constantly moves. But what we're seeing is hopefully the younger players developing and the older players being able to hang on to some of the form they have. Maya Yoshida told Kevin Baxter, he was like, no, I want to play. He's like, I'm going to start. Like, I don't want to be just sitting on the bench and doing all this stuff. And the whole deal, it's like, that's cool. But eventually Greg gets to put in his two right now. And they even talked about it, the season ticket member. It feels like a 4-man back, right? That doesn't seem like there's anything that has changed in terms of that. So that means there's going to be 2 center backs that you get to play. And then there's the other guys. And that means there's like 4 center backs who aren't going to play, or 3 center backs who aren't going to play. And some of those, Maya Yoshida's a starter. Jakob Glesnes is a starter. Justin Hack is a starter. I think Hack's going to start more at the 6. So watch a dual 6 with him and Cerrillo. That seems like that might happen earlier in the season. So Hack and Cerrillo playing together is something you could see. But you have Garces, right? So what's your starting back line? It's probably Glesnes and Garces. And that means Maya Yoshida, who's the captain of the team, ain't playing, right? And so then we look at Jakob Glesnes and you can sort of see the leader that he possibly can be and how important he's going to be to all of that. So, the bottom line is there's flexibility here for Greg Vanney. I will tell you that somebody told me this whenever I was talking to it, is that last year during trainings, and Greg even talked about it, Damian. Remember whenever he said he had to change the way he was training and teaching because the guys there were too many young guys and they didn't quite get it, right? The whole deal. I've been told that's no longer an issue. Like everybody is this a high level training going on whenever they're going through that. So all of the time that they spent last year, yes, it was ugly and yes, it was a whole thing, but all that time seems to have paid off. And the fact that now the level of training is significantly higher, even where they're starting from right now, that we expect to get better and better is way higher. So that's the experience, that's sort of starting to fill up for these younger players. So that was something that came out. I was told that they are energized and organized and they are focused during training, and that this is some of the most competitive. We talked about all the guys who aren't going to get playing time. You know what that does at training? Makes everybody competitive, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
I just what do you see when you're out there? Just the guys coming off and that type of thing. Does it feel like there's something different, or is it too hard to tell? I know how it is.
Yeah, I think it's still a little too early just for me to tell, because I've only been out there twice. But coming off of last season, you either come in thinking, "Oh crap, here we go again," or we only have one way to go, which is up. And from what you're hearing, what you're saying, what you're hearing, I mean, my brief conversation with Will and Greg, I mean, they seem to be, this group they really like the group. A lot of pieces, and they're looking for getting things back turned around here.
Let's see. We'll go to some super chats. A $20 super chat. Certainly appreciate that from Mike. I'll be making the trip to Panama in a couple weeks. Super stoked. I'm not in a supporters group, and I'm having trouble finding others who will be going as well. How can I find like-minded G's? Would be fun to grab a drink before. Awesome. Super going down to Panama, enjoying that. Make sure you get the right stadium. I'm pretty sure they're not playing in like their regular stadium, which happens so often whenever like you play in some of these games. So we'll, as soon as I can verify exactly which one that is. I think they've called it out, but still I would verify. Just make sure you're going to the right place. So that'll be important there as well. This is Adam, $10 super chat. Adam, thank you for that. I skipped over one I'm going to come back to, I promise. I know both of you are high on Seattle's expectations this upcoming MLS 2026 season, but their players aren't getting younger. It's starting to become an older team. 100%. But I'll tell you that the way Seattle usually is one, they will reload correctly, at least in my opinion. They'll move pieces where they need to move, and then the old guys will outperform their contracts as they always do, and do that. But no, I mean, I think Seattle's one of those you have to grow, that might grow into this season, Damian, if you're looking at it, right?
Yeah, they always seem to do that. It's guys go down, Smetzer goes down and plugs in 2 or 3 academy kids, wearing jersey number 84 and 97 and whatever, and they all just go out and do the job. I would never count out the Sounders, even if they're down, 2 games left, they're 7 points away. It's like I'm never going to count them out until it's over.
Yeah, that was Pablo Maurer was on Twitter, and he goes, I was going to say something snarky about Sporting Kansas City not having enough players to field the whole team and don't have a coach that's in the country, and like you're only a few weeks away from it starting the season. He goes, but I'd hate to have to delete the tweet after Sporting Kansas City makes the playoffs, right? The whole deal. So you can see that. Adam, by the way, $2 super chat says, guys, did you go over the Paintsel rumors? Listen, I know there's lots of people making so basically this is coming out of Turkey. So that should be your first sort of take a breath and step back a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they are interested in Joseph Paintsel. Actually, probably a player profile that is very much a Turkey player profile, right? I will say one is I haven't asked about this, so I can't tell you officially what anything is. So I don't want you to take. I always have to be careful what I say because I want to make sure I'm giving you the correct answer. This is speculation only on my part. There seems to be no motivation for the LA Galaxy to sell Joseph Paintsel 17 days before the season starts and goes. It would have to be a tremendous amount of money. It would have to be, you're looking sort of at the Buanga situation with LAFC, which is we're going to have to get a whole bunch of money if you're expecting that he's going to go somewhere, right? I think was it Brazil and Fluminense who's interested in Buanga? I think it is because one of the few Brazilian teams that has a whole bunch of cash that they could just splash and do a whole thing. So definitely something they could do. But that's a situation. So similar situation in terms of the LA Galaxy is how much would it hurt them? And at this point, they seem to have their ducks lined up, Damian, at least for me, where they should be competitive coming out of the gate for this season. Should be. I'm being way too Pollyannish, it drives me.
Like I said,
yeah, go ahead.
There's no way to go but up. You can't finish in 16th place in the Western Conference or 17th place, wherever how many teams there are.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go but up.
Well, and you look at a team like San Diego, who probably overperformed, and they're having Chucky Lozano issues and the whole deal. I'm discounting them right now, and they could still be a good team, right? So the whole deal, it's like anything. I think that the Galaxy are in a good position because, quite honestly, there hasn't, outside of, the best player, one of the best players in Major League Soccer getting injured again and not being able to play for the team, just that little thing, they seem to have all their ducks in a row. It doesn't seem... I got called out incorrectly for saying, that I thought the Galaxy were sort of stuck in molasses, whenever there was nothing going on. We didn't know about the Klaus rumors. We didn't have, it was like, you guys do something. You got to move. This is, Ricky's not going to be there. You need to do something. And here they are. They go and land Klaus. They land Tommy. And I'm sort of like, oh, okay, no, those were probably the right moves. That did it. Okay. Now everybody's sort of back to it again. If this turns out that the LA Galaxy are going to be as competitive as we think they are, certainly from the confidence of the players and everything that we're seeing so far, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Then I think we're looking at a pretty solid rebuild. And none of this is reaching. There's nothing in this that feels like, oh, the Galaxy are straining to make this deal happen. It would have been had they were trying to get Klaus whenever Puig was still on the roster. That would have been more difficult for him. But that's not what's happening, and so I feel rather confident in it. I don't know. I guess we're gonna see. I know it's early, Damian. I know it's there. Is there a younger kid who you're watching this year that you're like, this is the year? Come make a prediction that will certainly be wrong. It's always good.
Oh yeah, it certainly will be wrong. Oh man, I guess you just want to see the continued development of Harbor Miller, Ruben Ramos. Mm-hmm. Where can he find his role into the lineup? It's a crowded midfield now, very crowded. So where does he sort of fit in? That's probably the only two young guys I think might have a chance to break into the lineup. Just so at Miller, Does he continue to develop? Does he end up taking over that spot? And then how does Ruben looking sort of as a bounce back season? I think he dealt with an ankle injury last year, and I think some other stuff went on personal wise. I think so. I mean, how does he sort of bounce back this season? Still a young kid. I think only maybe 18 or 19, maybe 19 now. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to sort of see. Just again, I think for me, one of the players that I'm most interested in is Julian Aude, because I keep trying to sell him. That's on me. I was big on selling Mauricio Cuevas and Miki Amane earlier, and so now I've switched over to the other side. I want to get on the other side of the events. The Julian Aude, only because I think that U22 spot is really important, and so should the Galaxy need to move and need to sell and need to find something. I think that they just extended John Nelson's contract, so that seems like that's done, right? So now who's going to be the starter there? And it's probably going to be similar to what we've seen, which is those two will battle it out, and somebody will eventually end up sticking in there. They play differently, and I think that's something to watch. So I think I'm almost concerned, and I don't know that anybody should be, but there are almost so many options for Greg Vanney. How do you pick your starting 11, and then how do you get the right formation for these guys too? Because I would argue that I think 3 in the back is that. Now, something that Joe Tutino touched on with Justin Hack was playing in the 6 and then dropping back into a 5, so that Hack basically drops into the center back position whenever he's playing one of the 6s, and Cerrillo stays higher, and then Marco stays like inside the center circle, so I think that there's ways to do that, and the Galaxy get better defensively, and I think that could be a way for the Galaxy to get a lot of defense on there while still having guys who can sort of make it on the outside. Adam, by the way, $5 super chat says Timbers, St. Louis, RSL, San Jose, and Rapids. I don't think these teams will be playoff teams or high in the standings if they do make the playoffs. I mean, the chances are like 3 of those teams are going to make the playoffs because almost everybody makes it, right?
Listen, nine get in, so somebody has to make it, right?
It is. Again, in the preseason and just looking at the games where I think the Galaxy are actually going to be tested, and then you don't know if the lineups are going to line up in terms of, is it going to be first team versus first team? Is it going to be, how it goes? But Chicago is one of the biggest teams the Galaxy are going to play, and Chicago is coming off of sort of a year where they were a little bit of a surprise, right? A little bit better, and you're starting to see it under Greg Berhalter there. And so I would expect from Greg that they are only going to get better this year, just because that's usually how Greg's teams play. Remember a former LA Galaxy player, way back in the day on top of the Grammy Museum, the LA Galaxy were unveiling their black and gold LA Galaxy kit. That was the one that was up on top of the Grammy Museum. Outside on the roof, they had a season ticket member party. I remember it was there. And Greg Berhalter was a center back at that time and came up. And I think we talked and I said something. I was like, are you going to stick around? And he goes, no, I'm retiring after this year. He goes, I want to be a coach. I go, oh, you think you're going to be a good coach? And he's like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. The whole deal. It's like, oh, yeah, future U.S. men's national team coach. Nothing big, but he'll have Chicago ready. Which is why I think if you're watching any game, and I'm not trying to just like get you to the field on Sunday, you should be there, but up to you. But if you're watching any preseason game, you want to see how the LA Galaxy played against Chicago is probably going to be the best chance that you're going to see of anything. Because then there are other games. One at Coachella is against St. Louis City, who not real high on, and that's of course the Joao Klaus rematch there in the preseason, and then you have RSL, which again, I don't know about RSL. They're one of those teams that is very much a Moneyball type of team that is going to try to find value in underperforming assets of other places and different things like that. And they can be good sometimes, but what usually ends up happening is they get a good guy, he gets a lot of attention, they sell him, and then they start that process all over again without it sort of building up and being, the competitive team that they want to do. So we'll see. We'll see. Let's see. Avila, Damian, I'll let you do this. Avila, $2 super chat. Define realistic success for the LA Galaxy this season. What is realistic success for LA?
Success?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. MLS Cup. All right, good job, David.
Okay, yeah. I think realistic. I think it's a run in Champions Cup, but I think this team can make a decent run. And it's a top of the West finish. Does that mean contending for Supporters Shield? Probably not, but I think it's a top of the West finish where you're not scrapping, you're not, come decision day, you need 4 teams to help you out just to, sneak into the playoffs.
How would I define realistic success? I think you're going to find, I agree. I think one that the CONCACAF Champions Cup realistically sets up for them well certainly through the first 2 rounds is like, I'll say it right now without having seen any of these teams play. The LA Galaxy should advance through the first 2 rounds without so much as a speed bump, really. I don't see it. The teams that they're playing are not high quality teams in CONCACAF. They don't have the budget that the LA Galaxy have. They don't have the players that the LA Galaxy have. These should not be realistically difficult games. The only thing that you have to throw in there is that, of course, it's CONCACAF. Traveling on the road and going to do things can be difficult sometimes. Don't know what the weather's going to be like. Maybe it's raining sideways and there's puddles all over the place. Like there's all sorts of stuff like that. So it gets more difficult. That being said, at home against any of the CONCACAF teams, they should absolutely dominate. There should be no reason that they don't. So I think that is good. You start getting into some of the Mexican teams, and we'll see where the LA Galaxy are at whenever that happens, because I think you're going to have to watch it in the league and trying to split. And I'll say with less deep teams, I would suggest that there is going to be a hit in the first month, those first 2 games, where it's difficult for the LA Galaxy to sort of play their top lineup because they're going to be worried about CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. So they're splitting. I would suggest, Damian, this time that with the depth that the LA Galaxy seem to possess, at least on paper, that doesn't seem to be an issue. So I would suggest that the Galaxy go through, February undefeated, and that's a realistic expectation for success. Does that mean they go down to San Miguelito and lose their first game? I mean, they could, right? But if you're looking at it, I think it's realistic for the Galaxy to be undefeated. Does that mean that they win both of their MLS games at the beginning? No, I don't. I think they probably win one and draw one, and that's probably pretty realistic. I also could see them winning both. I do not expect them to lose either of those games. I don't expect them to lose any game in February. That shouldn't happen. So you start going into realistic success for me is top 5 in the Western Conference seems like that is a reasonable target. I think realistically, if you're the LA Galaxy, you're targeting top 3. And if you somehow find a way to get into that, and by the way, this is a team that finished 4th from the bottom of the table last year, right? I mean, and across everything, DC United was worse. Let's just be very clear. The team that they just played and beat 4-1. So, I understand what I'm saying. I'm also saying that they weren't as bad as Sasha Kleshin would yell at me because he would tell me that a team, you can always tell a team by looking at the table because that's what it is, right?
That's where you are, yeah.
That's where the table tells the story. But I'll also say that last year I didn't feel like the LA Galaxy were that bad. I also didn't, during the 2024 season, I didn't know they were that good. So I think there's always, it's recency bias and then being very close and watching it all the time. I feel like you can't quite separate it. But I don't think there's any reason why this team shouldn't have home playoff games and home field advantage for most of the playoff games. Because, quite honestly, this is a team that is set up for, what should be a daunting schedule, but won't be because the Galaxy basically will have condensed schedule starting, Damian, with CONCACAF Champions Cup. But then they just have league play for the rest of the time. They're not going to be in Leagues Cup. They're not going to be in U.S. Open Cup. So they don't have any other tournaments. The only other thing they just have this. That's it. So So crazily,
there's nothing else, right?
There's nothing else. No, there's no.
Yeah,
There's nothing else. The crazy thing is they're going to have World Cup time off, right? Because we have that 6-7 weeks that they have off for World Cup, and then I believe Leagues Cup starts soon after that. The Galaxy don't have any games, so they're going to be off and then off some more and off some more. I will suggest that does nothing but help the LA Galaxy this year. I don't like all the time off. I don't think anybody likes all the time off. But I feel like they're certainly not it's going to be difficult to find people minutes. That's going to be the problem in the second half of the season is getting people minutes. So, I think those are realistic expectations. I feel like the summertime could be a time for the Galaxy to make a move with Nascimento's loan up. I don't know. I don't know I'll have to try to dive into that and understand the thinking with just the 6 months and whether that was, his Brazilian team that was sort of demanding that or what it looks like. But to me, it feels like you can pull the ripcord on that in summertime and go get yourself another U22 in a position maybe that now you need backup in, right? So whole deal. By the way, I knew I said 6'7". As soon as I said it, I have a 6-year-old. I'm surprised he didn't wake up and come over here and like jump in here. So yes, some people in the chat room, he said 6'7". I'm like, yes, I know. I'm hopeful at any point that goes away, but I don't think I think it's here to stay, quite honestly. So.
Yeah, it's probably here to stay. One thing we haven't talked about is the goalkeeper position.
Yeah.
Mikovic and Marcinkowski and Brady Scott are back.
Yeah, Adam,
I think
Adam actually said $5 super chat. He goes, how well do you guys think goalkeeper Mitrovic will do to start the 2026 season since he had a full offseason to prepare as the number 1 starter? So now talk to me about Mitrovic.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think we all thought he could have done a little bit better last year. That's probably the thought within the staff as well. But he's back, and Marcinkowski's back as well. I think I think Novak started the first game, I think, against Portland. Not sure about the second one. The Portland game was the only one I actually got a look in because I was walking to my car and I might have looked over at the field and probably saw who was out there a little bit. But
you're gonna get tased if you keep that up. Just be
tell
careful.
anybody.
Yeah.
So that's another spot. That's another position there. If Novak has a big season, that really sets the group up for some of those goals that we just talked about.
I would like to change the perspective on Mitrovic just a little bit, which is here's a goalkeeper the Galaxy did spend a lot of money on in terms of transfer, but have him under $175,000 salary. I mean, like no money. There should be an understanding that at that price range, you are getting every single dollar out of him. Like there's just not a lot of money invested in that in terms of salary cap, right? And in terms of where you're putting. So for me, that's a bonus. And so I think you can get it. I don't think that there's for the Galaxy. I don't think that there's a failure here in that if Mitrovic proves not to be able to do it, which I think he's going to be. I think this is a season, quite honestly. Well, it has to be because if they pull the ripcord, JT Marcinkowski is going to start, and then that's going to be it. JT is more than capable of being a goalkeeper on a regular basis for the LA Galaxy. In terms of ceiling and floor, he's going to give you not a super high ceiling, but not a low floor, and he's going to be, he's going to be an average plus goalkeeper. Mitrovic's job is to be better than that, is to be better than an average plus goalkeeper. And last year, certainly with the defense, and I will give him the benefit of the doubt on this, is that, he's never had a really good defense in front of him. And this could be, let's say things that'll get me in trouble later. This could be one of the league's best defenses. It absolutely could be. And so that's something that I never thought I would say about the LA Galaxy, right? And no, I mean, I'm okay saying it. On paper, they're extremely good. Extremely good. If you put Garces with Glesnes, and I mean, I don't know that there's a better center back pairing in Major League Soccer, right? I mean, so if that happens, and Glesnes is a former Defender of the Year, by the way, if that happens, Glesnes could very well set up Garces for something like a Defender of the Year run this year. Only because Garces gets to be more aggressive. Imagine Hack coming in, and again, I've talked about this before, but if you play 3 in the back, even if you don't, you have twin sixes whenever you have Hack and Surreal playing next to each other. Imagine Garces going out and being a sniper, which he loves to get forward and try to pick the ball off high, right? Well, what we always worry about is somebody covering that position whenever he goes and does that. Well, Hack slides back into that, and then you have one of the league's best young center backs next to one of the league's best center backs, and you have one of the league's most dynamic center backs is out there sniping. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I can talk myself into that pretty easily, Damian, right? It's like it makes some sense. So
you're gonna be talking yourself into MLS Cup here pretty soon.
I just if the mic stays on long enough, I will talk myself into problems 100%. So that's usually how it works. But no, I mean, so those are the types of things that I think we can see. And if you can put that defense in front of Mitrovic, where I've liked his big save moments, right? He makes some saves that you're like, dude, that was a great That was a great save. I'll also say I think his weakness is at near post. And I think his weakness is being aggressive.
Mhm.
I don't think Kevin Hartman should have to kick him in the butt in halftime in order to get him into that sort of aggressive mode. I think he should be aggressive all the time. He's actually really good when he's aggressive.
Yep.
And maybe you tell him, and I think Greg talked about this, but he, early in the season, he said, go out and be aggressive and we'll worry about the mistakes. Like, don't worry about the mistakes. We'll worry about the mistakes. And I think if you give him that mindset that the team has him and that the guys are going to back him up, let him being aggressive could again put the LA Galaxy into a completely defensive mindset that they haven't had. This may be a year where the Galaxy win games 1-0. I mean, I don't think I've really seen a Galaxy team do that since 2011, maybe.
I haven't seen it since I've been here. Since I've been back since 16. It's even 24. It was like the 24 team. Their 1-0 was 4-2.
4-2. Yep. Yeah. 3-1, 4-2.
Yeah,
just
3-1,
outscored.
4-2,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that, and I harped on this last year, is that the offense wasn't good last year either. They weren't scoring goals. And so then you put your defense under more pressure, then the defense, has to perform. And when they don't, then Mitrovic is under more pressure. 100% understand all that. But I think this is Mitrovic's year. It has to be, because otherwise they pull the ripcord and that experiment's over. That's where it feels like we're at. Same with Greg Vanney, by the way. The Galaxy start poorly in a position where we're looking at right now, which seems like they're fairly stable. Everybody's quote unquote healthy except for Ricky Puig again. I don't think Ricky Puig can be used as an excuse this year, right?
No.
So that's not going to happen. Last year, sure. This year, no. So you put him in a position where if the Galaxy don't perform, then how does that hot seat work? And if the hot seat is working, how does Greg sort of react to that? And he's usually a guy who doesn't try to react to that. But this is not last year. There's not a lot of wiggle room in this, right? And I always feel like a general manager is going to get a coach, right? And Will hasn't gotten a coach yet. So I don't know that Will's going anywhere. And it's certainly not looking at the offseason that I think they've had. I think they've had one of the better offseasons outside of Miami. I think the Galaxy have probably had the best offseason out of any team in Major League Soccer. So maybe Nashville too. Nashville's going to be sneaky in the East Coast this year, in the Eastern Conference this year. Just wait for it.
Yeah. I love that. I love Christian Espinoza. He's one of the favorite players to watch, and leaving there. It's been a pretty good pick up there.
It is, and I think there's a lot of things that are sort of fun in that too, especially being that somebody forgot to option his year at San Jose. So that's just a great story just to begin with. So, so yeah, I think that's where we're sort of at with the Galaxy. Is I feel confident in what they're at. Now it's time for them to go out, but there's pressure in expectations, and I think the expectations are high this year. I mean, talking to Galaxy fans. It was funny. So at the season ticket member event, which was great, by the way, the Galaxy did a great job. Only 600 people were able to attend because it wasn't a huge venue. I believe you had to be put on a wait list or in a lottery system, Damian. And if you got picked for this, perhaps you won't get picked for open training, which a lot of people like open training and stuff like that. They had Galaxy players making drinks. They were all mocktails, so there was no alcohol at the party. But Jakob Glesnes was back there shaking and making mocktails for people. They had different photo places set up. Cosmo was walking around with the MLS Cup. It was just nice. It was good to see. The players handled it well. I'm sure the players are like, listen, these guys aren't like, a lot of them aren't social guys, right? Like they're not like, let me go hang out with fans. Like it's not their idea of a great time. But they all did a great job and sort of doing it. There was at one point at the end there, if you were in attendance, and I'm sure if you go on any social media, it looked like a sneak peek there of the 2026 home kit. So I believe I did get to have a little peek at that from the players there. That's officially not coming out until I think the second week in February. So this is all MLS lines this stuff. So if you were there, you got to see a peek of it, and go on social media if you want to find it. Those are the rules, but we'll talk about it whenever it officially comes out and does all that fun stuff. So it was a really great event, like that type of thing, but it was fun talking to some Galaxy fans who were like, I feel like I want to get excited about this team, and this was a good event to help me get excited, because it was like, it's a big blow whenever Ricky Puig goes down. You're like, here it goes again, right? I can understand that feeling. So we saw that. We saw some great people who were there. By the way, I want to shout out the LA Galaxy service team. who are awesome people. You know, guys trying to sell tickets, the guys and gals, I should say, trying to sell tickets and doing all this stuff. They got a tough job, man. I mean, can you imagine, like, you're 16-game winless and you're trying to sell tickets? Like, you know, it's like, hey, man, it's not me. All right, I'm trying. You know. So I think, you know, just those are wonderful people. I got to say hi to some of them. Amazing stuff, and I know that some of them are listeners of the podcast. It's awesome. That's super cool. And then let's see who else. Just a ton of Galaxy fans, a ton of podcast fans. But they were like, "This is like, I'm finally getting excited." And then you get to see guys like Eric Tommy up there. And by the way, he's a vet. I mean, just that was the first time I sort of got to see him and hear him talk. And he's one of our targets for possibly the podcast on Sunday is to talk to Eric Tommy, only because I have Eric and Eric next to each other, and you know, one spells it with a K and one spells it with C, and that's gonna be the whole bit for the whole time. You're gonna hear no questions about what's going on. So it's just an interesting time. I think that there's a lot more optimism now, Damian, than there was. And I certainly think that landing Klaus, certainly a ton of opinions about Klaus. Let me tell you, good Lord. Yeah, everybody. I said the over-under on it is like 13 goals for me. I think 13 is the number. I'm right there. And he already had in the goal that Marco Royce scored, that was a dummy through Klaus. He's already affecting the plays, and that happened in the first minute. Again, against DC United, which is just a little bit more than, a USL team. So at this point, I will throw shade at DC United. There's no reason DC United is as bad as they are. Just absolutely no reason. Year over year. That's the thing. Somebody asked, by the way, before we close this out, who was it? Let's see. They said, who wears the armband? There it is. Football Galaxy says, Josh, who do you think takes the captain's armband if Yoshida doesn't start? I know who it is. I know who do you think it is, Damian? Let me put it this way. I don't know who it is, but I have my guess set right away.
Marco?
Sure. You can.
You're not saying you're not thinking Marco though.
No, I don't think he's gonna be on the field like enough to be that guy, right? Like you have to manage his minutes. I'm sorry. He has you know, if his knees had frequent flyer miles, you know, from all the running he did, he'd get to fly first class all the time. He does anyway. So, think new guys.
Blessings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. People are going to go, how can you do that? There's a new guy comes on the team, he gets the captain's armband. Just hang around him for a little bit. Like, and I only got to see him at a distance. I'm like, that guy, leader in the clubhouse. 100%. And it's one of the reasons, guaranteed, that Will went out and got him. Was to make sure they had that leadership. Eric Tommy is going to be a leader. I don't know if he's going to be he may get the armband at the end of the games type thing whenever he comes in. Maybe he takes it off of Marco Royce whenever he comes off of, right? So you're not, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think Klaus is going to be that leader. He seems like he's more of like the bruiser. By the way, people are like, there's no way he's 28 years old, right? So it's all good. So, you know, those are sort of the things. But I think there's some real leaders on this team. I'll tell you who I think is going to step up and be a more vocal leader this year is John Nelson as well. He's at home. He's finally found a home in Los Angeles that wants him, and he wants to. You could hear him whenever we were talking to him, Damian, sort of like, I need to be more of a leader, right? And so I think you're going to see more of that from him too. I always think of defenders as captains anyway. You know, as a defender myself, we saw what happened. We know what's going on. You know. And we can get up the field because if you have a goalkeeper as a captain, then he has to run all the way back in order to get the referee. It's too far, you know, so you don't want to have to do that. So yeah, that's where it sits. The LA Galaxy right now coming up again, a closed door, or as Kevin Baxter, who's away at the Milan Olympics here, says it's a closed gate because there are no doors on that. It's just a gate. So a closed gate scrimmage against OCSC in the You Tried to Steal My Field matchup. And then it's Chicago, February 8th at Coachella, St. Louis City, February 11th at Coachella, and RSL, which is again a closed gate or closed door scrimmage at Coachella on February 13th, whenever they go. The guys, I believe, are actually headed down to Coachella on Thursday night or Friday. They have if I heard that correctly, I think that's correct, but they have the golf tournament that happens on Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah, so the golf tournament will be going on out there, and then that game starts on Sunday. So they'll be training throughout the whole time, but they'll eventually make their way out to Coachella here this week, as will I. I'll be arriving early on the Sunday morning there. I'll get up bright and early. If you want to catch a ride, Damian, the bed of the pickup truck's open. You can just lay down in there. No problems. Don't worry about it.
By the time you leave home, I'll still be sleeping.
You'll still be sleeping? That's okay.
I'll still be sleeping.
It'll be fun to see. So, yeah, that's where we are with the Galaxy. All of the news I would say is pretty positive. So take that with you as you move forward. Some other things that we saw from the LA Galaxy before we close out. There it is. Maya Yoshida, Joseph Paintsel, and Gabrielle Peck all at the Grammys. By the way, a whole bunch of LA Galaxy players at the Grammys. If you saw any of their social media going on, I know LA Galaxy president there, Tom Braun, was at the Grammys as well. You know, when you're with AEG, you get those Grammys tickets, man. Come on, that's one of
the seats. You get the seats and the tickets.
You get to do it all. So it'll be fun to see that. Let's see. They had some Guesman was modeling obviously the Stairway to Seven, as we're calling it, the new the new Stairway star logo and matchup there. They also had on Saturday after the scrimmage, they had their media day as well. So João Klaus with his little dog hanging out. I think the dog's become a minor celebrity. We're gonna have to find out what the name of the dog is because that thing seems to go everywhere with them. So that'll be a new one as well. So that's sort of what we got for the LA Galaxy as we head into the first time we're going to get to be able to see them on Sunday. So a lot of stuff. Damian, I mean, are you more or less excited about what you think is coming here? I mean, is this you feel like we're going to see some good soccer? It's not going to be 16 losses in a row, like.
And after last year, they owe me a good season, man. They owe my editors a good season. They owe me a good season. One thing I don't think we mentioned the Zonka news.
Oh, thank you. Hold on, it's right here.
Today.
Here we go. Zonka officially out. This was a mutually terminated contract, which it could mean that there are salary cap implications. It could mean that they're not, because basically they could have said, "Hey, here's $300,000 if you go away and you can go do whatever you want to do," and like that could have been $0, and he's like, "I'm good." So we're just going to terminate that contract and go. But yeah, what do you? I mean. Implications of that, I know we've talked about it because it was sort of official whenever Will talked about it last week, right? So
yeah.
One of those things, but now officially, I don't know, officially done. So what do you think of the Zonka thing? Was that the best case scenario for the Galaxy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's probably one of the names we kicked around in the offseason or before the last season ended. You have so many guys, so many center backs back there, and I thought he sort of struggled at times last season, just getting acclimated and everything. So, go your separate ways there.
By the way, Commercial Underground goes, poor Damian had to figure out new headlines each week. Like Galaxy lose again there's only so much you can. Do you have to write your own headlines or does somebody do it?
Yeah. Well,
when
I first filed my story, I got to throw a headline on there.
Okay.
And then if they like it, they keep it. If not, they'll change it. But man, it was getting tough to say, hey, they lost again. I almost got to a point and said, hey, they lost again.
That was the whole story. That was they lost again. The end. But no, it was, yeah, I mean, so Joe, by the way, goes, we've been cutting Zonka from the team since last year. I will reiterate what I said before, because I think there's too many of you way too happy about Zonka being gone. Like, like the guy, called your kid names or something. That didn't happen. He was not as bad as we probably think he was, and he never reached the good that maybe he could have been, right? And it lies somewhere in there. And I will tell you that just the fact the Galaxy were so horrible did not help him at all. And but he made some massive mistakes. So I mean, we can look at some of those and go back and be like, yeah. But it was a guy who at the end of last year was sort of saying, hey, I'm coming back. I'm going to be more comfortable. It was difficult adjusting to the United States and all that. That is interesting, though. Like, you look at Zonka, he came from outside of the league. Look at all the people the LA Galaxy brought in this year. They're all from inside the league. Do you not think that was a strategy that was played out? As in, we need people who are comfortable here right now. And I think one of the reasons you're going to find the LA Galaxy probably start the way they do is nobody's getting used to this league this year. Everybody who's coming back is coming back. So a particularly important point as we get into the dirty times of the preseason here, where we're actually going to have to see some games that are grinded out and start playing some real soccer. Right now, it's been scrimmages. Against Chicago, that'll be more real soccer whenever it goes. So that's an actual game. So we'll see how that goes. But I always thought with Zonka, Damian, that he was the right person to get rid of, but contract-wise may have been harder to get rid of than, say, Yoshida. And the best case scenario would be like a sort of mutual termination, or like, hey, he has places he wants to go, so you can let him go, and he wants to go somewhere else. So I think it's best case scenario in this particular case. So All good. Somebody did ask me before we close it out, and I know we're past 9, and I apologize to everybody, but somebody had asked me about international roster slots. So I can give you international roster slots as of right now. To my knowledge, Damian, the LA Galaxy are sitting with the league-provided 8 spots that they have. I don't believe they traded anyway, and I don't believe they've gotten any as of right now. I don't know that they're owed any, but I'll have to go check because I think, wasn't there a deal with Nashville that like they got a international slot for like the next year and it was part of like a Johnny Price thing? I don't remember. It could be something like that. I'll have to go check. So as of right now, I have the LA Galaxy at 8 international slots, which is the league provided. I'll try to get clarification on that just to double check. But one of the things that I would point out is that as of right now, I think the LA Galaxy have 11 internationals. And the 11 internationals that I have are, remember, Ricky Puig doesn't count as an international slot this time because he's not on the roster season-ending injury list. So I have Paintsel, Peck, Royce, Yamane, Sanabria, Nascimento, Yoshida, Garces, Aude, Mitrovic, and Vivi. Now, you have Insigne, right, who's also is technically on the roster, but I believe is being loaned out still. And so if he comes back, he would also be an international slot. I don't believe that that's going to be anything that the Galaxy have to worry about. The one that we're obviously, Damian, I know which one you and I are looking at, which is Gino Vivi. Technically on the roster. I did check today. Now you and I know I just checked today.
Yeah.
The answer's still no green card. All right. Yeah. So in process.
The process is processing, but not as fast as they hoped it would be.
Yes, but now that's been since October. I mean, even before that. When did Vivi come back? He came back like after summertime, didn't he?
Yeah, he came back September.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
August?
Yeah, August, September, end of August, beginning of September, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And they've been waiting on that green card since then. As of right now, again, I don't think this is going to impede the LA Galaxy. What I think is going to happen is it's going to impede Gino Vivi because I think they're just going to move him to Ventura County if that's going to be the case, where they loan him down and keep him down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point he needs to play against some men, maybe a USL loan maybe somewhere around there. Yeah. I mean, he's 24, 25, I think. He went through the college system, so I think he needs to be playing against men. The USL will provide that.
Yeah, just turned 25.
25,
December 20th was his birthday. So I say, so as I see it right now, the LA Galaxy realistically have 10 internationals, and so they will need 2 slots. That's way different than whenever they had 13 last year. And so they will not need 13 this year. My best guess is they're going to need 10. And that means that they're going to have to go out and acquire 2. Now, I haven't seen a whole bunch of international slots trading hands, and so I'm like, is everybody waiting until the end, like until roster compliance to make the deals? Because basically the Galaxy have to be roster compliant with that. All right. So, and that I think happens on like the 20th or something like that. I know the 19th
is before your first game or before the league's first game.
I think it's before the league's first game. So the Galaxy play on the 22nd. I think it's either the 20th or 21st where you have to be roster compliant. So, but it's after the CONCACAF champ. You have to be roster compliant for CONCACAF Champions Cup, which you're allowed 44 players on the roster or some crap like. They just put everybody on it. It's fine.
You put everybody on the roster. You might be on the roster.
I probably am. In fact, I would count on it. So that's what we have. In terms of the LA Galaxy and roster compliance as of right now. Now, again, I want to reiterate the numbers that I have on here for these are last year's numbers. That includes like guys. So if they were playing on a different team, you're able to put numbers. This is another reason I know that there are no players coming from outside the league into this, because I was able to get everybody's salary from last year to be able to put in the chart. So that's usually if there's an international brought in, you don't have a salary until it comes in. So we put it as a 0. But I'm using last year's. Then what will happen is it'll update in the springtime. We will get all those. We'll redo all those numbers and then have this year's numbers there. So the numbers don't add up yet because it's using last year's numbers. So don't freak out about that stuff as we go. All right, Damian, anything else you would like to impart upon the wonderful people who tuned into our way too long show tonight?
Oh, man. I'm just getting ready. I'm excited for another season. Right now, I'm excited. Check back by the summer, see how excited I am. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to another good season. Well, another season. If it's going to be good or not, I guess we'll see. But I think it will be better. It will be better than last year. As I say, it can't be worse than last year.
Can't be worse than last year. I agree.
Nah, and I think the guys. Of course, the guys know that, of course. But yeah, looking forward to another season that I'm not going to say championship yet, but you want to.
You want to be wrong. You want to be wrong, Damian.
Give me a couple months. Give me a couple months.
I'm sure we'll have you on again. Kevin's going to be stuck in Milan for a while, and they may not let him back in. So there's a whole bunch of things that could happen. All right, Damian, tell people where they can find you. We'll get on out of here.
LA Daily News, Southern California News Group, all the papers from Riverside to the South Bay. I'm going to get started up pretty soon here with some notebooks and stuff, Galaxy-wise and Angel City as well. And then that tournament later in the year, some World Cup or whatever's coming here.
You're gonna do some of that too. You get to go to those.
I might be at a couple of those too.
Good luck with parking. I heard like you can park a mile away and pay $350 for parking. So really excited about that. That's gonna be good. All right, Damian, thank you as always. If you're looking for me on any of the social media at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com, and any places you can find a podcast, you can find Corner of the Galaxy, whether that's SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts or Google Play Store. Any of those places, go ahead and type in Corner of the Galaxy. We will be out at Coachella on February 8th. You need to be out at Coachella on February 8th. Get your tickets, get your passes at Coachella Valley Invitational. We will see you out there on Sunday. All right, for Mr. Damian Calhoun, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.